Everybody, Kate Smith, Superintendent, New Braunfels ISD. In this presentation, I want to go over the 2021 bond that our Board of Trustees called for the November election and show you what we've been sharing in the community, some of our face-to-face presentations, and give you this virtual option as well. So let me share my screen with you, and we will walk through this presentation. So our trustees have called a November bond for $348 million. And it's, without any secret, it's the largest bond in the history of New Braunfels ISD. It is a 1.5 cents tax rate increase, and I'm going to walk you through that. And really the impetus behind this bond is two reasons. It's capacity concerns and aging facilities. And I'm going to show you how all of that got here. It started with a great facilities planning committee made up of 46 members that sat down, took all the research of the school district. What have we done in the past? What are we looking at right now? What are our projections? They reviewed a ton of solutions and brought a recommendation, a unanimous recommendation in front of the Board of Trustees. The board took that recommendation, did some work on their own, and voted unanimously to call a bond for November the 2nd. Here's the first issue that we have in the bond, and the reason why it's called is capacity concerns. This slide is no secret really to anybody in the community. We're a fast-growing county. We're a fast-growing area. We are a fast-growing school district, and you can see the enrollment trend from 2005 when we had about 6,700 students to where we are today. We're going in between 9634 and 9635, bouncing back and forth in there. It's about a 42% increase in student enrollment on this chart that you see. Here's one of the main things that our committee looked at before bringing it to the trustees is the capacity concerns, and there are 5 campuses specifically in this slide, and you can see them on the left from Lamar, Boss Farms, Veramendi, Klein Road, and New Braunfels High. I don't focus so much on the numbers. The colors really tell the story. You can see the years running across in the second row at the top. The orange column is currently where we see it sit right now in enrollment. And when you see yellow, that means that campus is projected to be over capacity. So you can see next year, we've got concern with 4 campuses that are going to be projected over capacity. And by 2025, 5 campuses, all 5 of these would be over capacity. So the committee addressed this right off the bat, debated all kinds of things that we can do and settled on a few recommendations. The first one on the elementary side is to add additional classrooms to Klein Road and Boss Farms to relieve overcrowding. Klein Road and Boss Farms are a carbon copy footprint of Veramendi Elementary. If you recall, around 2016, Veramendi was built, and then another bond was called to add 8 additional classrooms in Veramendi. This is a screenshot right here of Google Maps of what Veramendi looks like. And you can see where the ridge is, where those 8 additional classrooms were added to Veramendi Elementary. It's the same situation that is brought forth for $7.5 million total on these 2 elementaries in Boss Farms and Klein Road. Here's Klein Road to do the same exact thing we did at Veramendi. Here's Boss Farms to do the same exact thing. And there's a rendering of what that would look like from the outside on those 2 campuses. Get asked usually in the presentation right off the bat, well, what happens if the bond does not pass and we become over capacity? Well, we have to put the kids somewhere. In public schools, we cannot turn away students. We have to take them in. And so typically, if you can't build a facility because you don't have the money, you've got to go and probably get a portable and put that there. You've got to have a structure for kids to go to school. And so that's what the bond is for, is to make the determination of, does the community want brick and mortar on their elementary campuses or any campuses, or are they good with portables? And you get to decide on whichever model you want on that. But we do have to put kids somewhere as that growth continues to come. Second solution on elementary, you saw Veramendi on that chart. You saw Lamar on there. It is to build elementary number 11 on the Veramendi side of the loop. And to address the Lamar zone and the Veramendi zone and the overcrowding there, that's budgeted of $42 million to build that elementary number 11 on that west side of our city. Here's just a bird's eye view of the area that we're talking about. Here's the loop right here. Here's 46. Here's Veramendi, the whole subdivision of Veramendi. You all have seen this driving down the loop as it continues to move towards Oakwood Church. The development of Veramendi does. All of that is zoned for Lamar Elementary right now. And if as that continues to grow, we've got to figure out what to do, because Lamar will be over capacity. Bring forth another elementary, because you can't just put them in Veramendi because it's overcrowded as well. So we've got fast growth, and we've got to do something with that fast growth. So on the secondary side, you saw New Braunfels High on there, and Long Creek has been talked about in this school district for some time now. This is kind of the last step to bring Long Creek High School, the second comprehensive high school, to fruition in this community. And the bond is calling $122 million to convert the current ninth grade center into Long Creek High School. Previous administration has gone through this. I stole this one from one of their presentations that they have done. And it shows you on the left, here's the conversion and the projected enrollment. And it shows here's the ninth grade center still where we are today. Next year, the ninth grade center, the year after that, the ninth grade center. And in 2024, if this bond were to pass, is the first time that we would actually split, and the current ninth graders at Long Creek that are zoned for Long Creek would stay there and become 10th graders in 2024. Then in 2025, they would move up into 11th graders. And in 2026, we would have a 4-year high school there. You see that reflection on New Braunfels High. Here's the projected enrollment where we are currently today. And then it continues to go next year. New Braunfels High is still 10 through 12, 2023, 24. And then in 24, 25, the zones would split, and ninth graders that are zoned for New Braunfels High would then go to New Braunfels High. And you can watch that enrollment go down, because you can see the enrollment going up at Long Creek High School. So there's kind of the timeline of when that would take place. 2024, 2025 school year is the projected time frame that we would have Long Creek High School online. There's a rendering of what Long Creek High School, kind of the auditorium area there, what Long Creek could look like. So let's go back to our chart. Capacity concerns, you see the yellow. If the bond were to pass, here's what it looks like. A lot of the yellow disappears. You can quickly see that New Braunfels High, it is over capacity, and you can watch it kind of drift off. We've got plans to address that and still keep kids at New Braunfels High and get us to Long Creek. But you can quickly see the concern at Klein Road, that's over capacity. What are we going to do at that point? We're in a fast growth school district. And if you watch the tail of a fast growth school district, we had a bond here in 16, had a bond in 18. We're bringing you a bond in 21. And if I'm honest with you, we'll probably have a bond in 2024 to address, and what will be on there, a new elementary in that Klein Road area, and also to bring a second phase of New Braunfels High to you, because that's coming up right now in the aging facilities. Here you go. Here's the chart. Here's the ages of our elementary school. Carl Schurz's 86 years old. In 2 years, we are going to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Lamar Elementary being open. And you can see the ages of our elementary schools. Go to secondary schools. New Braunfels High is almost 60 years old. The Learning Center across the street from McKenna is getting close to being 60 years old. So that was the second thing that the Facilities Planning Committee wanted to address, is just some of these ages of our schools that we have here. And one of the things, and if I go back to this chart, that you'll see is that not every child goes to Carl Schurz. That is a campus that's 86 years old. Not every child goes to Lamar. That's 96 years old. But if you fast forward to this chart on secondary schools right now, every child in New Braunfels ISD is slated to go to New Braunfels High, a campus that's almost 60 years old. And our committee determined that it is time to do something with New Braunfels High School in this bond, and that is a complete rebuild in New Braunfels High. So let me walk you through what those solutions are on the ages. First solution, Renovation of Carl Schurz Elementary to house the student academic programs. That's where the Learning Center fits in. If I go back to this chart, if the bond were to pass, we renovate Carl Schurz. We could take any of the students that are currently going to the Learning Center. We can move those into a renovated Carl Schurz. That frees up the Learning Center to do something with it, which could be putting it on the market and up for sale and disposing of that facility. That's the first solution. The second one is the complete rebuild of New Braunfels High on the same site. Now, this says phase 1 of 2 is because New Braunfels High is over a 2 bond period. You're looking at a complete rebuild of a high school. If I go back to Long Creek already has kind of the structure there with the 9th grade center. That's a good facility. We're just going to add on to that for $122 million. In this one, the committee brought forward and in the board agreed, we go with a complete start from scratch in New Braunfels High School and build a new high school on that site. Here's New Braunfels High. You all know this. Here's the loop. And currently where New Braunfels High sits, the new New Braunfels High School would be built right back in this area, right over here. And it would be somewhat of a build, demolish, build, demolish, build, demolish until we eventually have in this section a New Braunfels High School that is a 3-story building. It goes up instead of out to conserve space. And then we would move tennis courts, parking, all that. That would begin to become over here. And by going up at New Braunfels High, we could gain some more parking at New Braunfels High, which everybody knows right now that I think you would agree that parking is an issue at New Braunfels High. And so that's the intent of this proposition. There you go. A rendering of what a New Braunfels High School could possibly look like upon completion. Second thing on aging facilities that we've got a lot of playgrounds that are somewhere in the vicinity 14, 15 years old, full playground replacements at the campuses that you see right now. If the elementary is not on there, it's because those playgrounds are fairly new and still in great shape. The committee recommended a shade structure be put, a canopy over these playgrounds that are in the direct sun on the elementaries on the left. Some of them aren't on there because they've got a natural shade. They've got trees and they've got covering there for the shade structure. So it'd be a shade structure there. The total cost for the playground replacement and the shade structure is budgeted to be $2.9 million. So let's go through the 3 propositions that we have in our bond right now. Proposition A, $321 million in this proposition. And I walked you through quite a few of these. There is Long Creek High School, New Braunfels High, Elementary School number 11, the Carl Schurz conversion, Klein Road and Boss Farms addition, the playgrounds and shades, some things that we didn't cover. We've got some HVAC units that are meeting their life, have actually gone beyond the life expectancy of those. Are about 20 years old. We've budgeted $2.3 million for those. We have buses and district fleet. As we get more students, we've got to have more buses. We have to have more district fleet, budgeting $2 million for that. That has an asterisk by it because typically bonds go out to about 30 years. If we were to pass this bond and we were to go and buy buses and district fleet, those would be on a 5-year note. They wouldn't be on a 30-year. And so we could save money on that. Zip Road Extension traffic light, $4.6 million budget for that. What is that? Well, if we're going to convert the 9th grade center into the 2nd comprehensive high school, we've got to have the road access that can handle the traffic that goes into a high school. We have traffic that's going into currently the 9th grade center, and it's a little congested right now. We would add a complete 4-year high school there, comprehensive high school. So we've got to do something with that. And then there's $30 million for contingency and inflation. As everybody knows, construction costs are going up right now. That's budgeted $30 million. That may not be spent, but it's there just in case we need it and to make some adjustments along the way. $321 million in this proposition. It's the main proposition for our bond. Second proposition, by law, we have to put any upgrade to a stadium and an athletic facility that seats 1,000 spectators or more on a proposition by itself. So there's two things on this proposition. One is a future Long Creek High School competition stadium for $14.4 million. The ninth grade center currently has a stadium. What we want to do on this, and the Facilities Planning Committee made the recommendation, is to take that stadium and make it a stadium that seats about 6,000 spectators so that the students at Long Creek High School have their own stadium and don't have to be bused across town to go play their home games in the backyard of another high school. And so it would take that stadium and make it a comprehensive competition stadium for all athletics, all fine arts, anybody that wants to use that stadium. The second thing on this proposition is an aging facility. A Unicorn Stadium press box is getting a little bit older, and it is to build a new press box at Unicorn Stadium, budgeted for $5.7 million. And that would be built on the other side that our current press box is on, which would flip the home side of Unicorn Stadium to the other side so that spectators would not be looking into the sun as they go to events in the evening. The last proposition is technology. That has to be in a proposition by itself. As we build bigger schools, as we add on space to capacity, such as Klein Road, Boss Farms, we've got to provide the access points to technology. We have an iPad initiative, as many of you are aware of. It's time for a refresh of that. Budget is $6.6 million so we can stay current with technology. Those are the three propositions that are on our bond. Let's talk about the tax rate implications and the money that goes into this bond. In school finance, there are two buckets, so to speak, where our tax dollars go into. So your property taxes the tax rate goes into two buckets: the maintenance and operation, which we call the M&O. You can see what that can be used for. Primarily, the maintenance and operation is used for staff salaries. The vast majority, about 86% of that bucket, is paid for in staff salaries of personnel. There's another bucket called the INS, or the interest in sinking. This is for, if you go down the list, you can see it's new construction, it's renovation, it's building buildings or renovating buildings. That's what this bond is bringing. It is to bring $348 million and drop it into the INS bucket so we can build and renovate those facilities. We cannot move money from the INS bucket to the maintenance and operations. So if you were to approve this bond and we got $348 million, we cannot by law take a chunk of that money and move it to the maintenance and operations side because we want to raise salary for staff. We can't do that in this bond. And so it would primarily go, or not primarily, all of it would go to the interest in sinking side. I mentioned before, this is a 1.5-cent tax rate increase to get to that 348. Let me walk you through that and what that means. Here's our current year. Here's that bucket, that INS tax rate. We currently sit at 32 cents, 32.5 cents is where we sit. Our maintenance and operations sits at about 87 cents. Your total tax rate right now is $1.1978. If the bond were to pass, we would go up 1.5 cents on the INS tax rate. We would go to 34 cents. But you got some down arrows going on the maintenance and operation side. What our lawmakers did is they made some provisions for property taxes that continue to go up. They said because of that, school districts shall compress the maintenance and operation rate over a period of time. And so that's what you're going to see. You may not know this, but our board adopted a maintenance and operation tax rate that was about 2 cents lower than it was last year. So our total tax rate this year is about 2 cents lower than it was last year because of that compression. Property values going up, maintenance and operation side gets compressed. So here you go. We're going to next year. Let's say the bond passes, 1.5 cents increase on the INS tax rate side. The projection of the maintenance and operations side is to be compressed down to 85.46, which it's crazy to say we would have a less tax rate next year, even with 1.5 cents tax rate going up. Moving forward, we don't go 1.5 cents increase every year. It's a one-time 1.5 cents tax rate. We maintain that 34 cents over the next, we continue to maintain that, but that maintenance and operation continues to get compressed. And so your total tax rate continues to go down. And by 2024-25, we're looking at a projected tax rate of $1.16, $1.69 for every $100 that your home is assessed value. This chart rounds up those numbers, and it kind of shows you where we sit in tax rate comparison across the region. We're pretty competitive. We're sitting at we put $1.20. We're at that $1.19-ish, but rounded up to $1.20. And this was a big debate from our facilities planning committee, because we typically don't raise the INS side, and they went back and forth with that, and the end result was from them was it's time to raise it $0.015 and do something with New Braunfels High School. Honestly, in that conversation, we could have not brought New Braunfels High School to the Board of Trustees, and there would be a 0-cent tax rate increase. They said for $0.015, let's go ahead and put New Braunfels High on this bond, see what our voters think, and then we'll go from there. But they felt like it was time to do something with New Braunfels High. Early voting, October 18th through the 29th. Election day is November the 2nd. If you have questions, you can email us here. You can also go to our website. You can hover over About Us on the left-hand side, and you will see bond information that is there. The thing that we ask from the school district, and we just encourage you to get out and vote. We encourage you, if you love the bond, great. If you hate the bond, that's fine as well. We're bringing this to you to get your voice so we can move in a direction that our community wants us to go, because we serve you as community members. Thanks for the time today. Fire your questions away, and look forward to seeing you out in the public. Thanks, everybody.